Hey everyone. Are you looking for tips, strategies, a discussion on the term radical sobriety and what that means for Black women? If so, you're in the right place. My name is Marissa Price. I am a Black woman social worker, healer, freelance educator. And on this channel, I share healing resources for Black women, creating a safe space for us to share experiences that we have been through, resources, tools with each other so we don't have to start from scratch every single time. But please subscribe to my channel. Please leave a comment if this episode resonates with you. And please like this video. I have a wonderful guest with me today, Deja. I will pass it over to her to introduce herself and tell us about Radical Sobriety, her Instagram community.
All right. Thanks, Marissa. Hey. Well, hi. Yes, I am Deja. My community is Radical Sobriety, and as of the 14th of this month, March 14th, I'm 19 months sober. And that is basically what started this page. It was I don't even know where to start. Like, I can just keep going and going and going and talking about like everything that I've been learning and whatnot, just from a sobriety standpoint, but also Black woman in sobriety, in recovery standpoint, treatment, my experiences with AA and whatnot. And it's kind of like, if I have to describe radical sobriety, it
Mhm.
is unconventional.
Mm.
It is rebellion.
Yes.
It is decolonization. It is
Yes.
learning and unlearning and learning and unlearning, and just a cycle of mental gymnastics as well. But then, even though I kind of dislike the word acceptance in some contexts, we'll just
Mhm.
say acceptance for here, just because there's acceptance of, this is where I am now. This is a part of me. It's not who I am, but
Mhm.
I'll take it as it is. And so that whole concept is radical as hell, you know?
I love that. Hmm. I love that.
So it's oh man. So all right. Should I start from the very beginning?
Please. Yeah, you mentioned so many terms that a lot of us are interested in, like rebellion, yes, decolonizing, yes. And so I guess just what was the thought behind creating an Instagram page for Radical Sobriety?
So, as I mentioned, I am 19 months sober, and that within that process, I within the journey, there has been relapses. There has been learning about alcohol addiction, alcoholism. There's been learning about other forms of behavioral addictions. Also, forgot to mention, I am a behavior analyst. I work in the field
Hmm.
of applied behavior analysis. So, I currently work with children with autism and other developmental disabilities and learning disabilities, and went to grad school for that. So I'm just in the journey of, soon we'll be taking my certification exam and all that fun stuff,
Yay.
so I can move to Mexico with
Hmm.
you. I'm trying to, rack up my points,
Oh, yes, come
so
on.
I can
Hmm.
travel with you. But
Hmm.
it was the journey of like grad school, that was the biggest trigger for me when it comes
Hmm.
to drinking. And so, all right. So I'm in the Chicagoland area. Um,
Hmm.
I specifically Naperville. Don't care if I shout it out. It is Naperville. If you look up Naperville, Illinois, it would be probably on the best places to live, like top 10 places to live. It's so safe and it's so secure and it's very rich and it's very white, and that's what we're about, kind of thing. And so I grew up in a very wealthy white neighborhood, and that um, it's really that has like been the eye-opening wound throughout this learning and unlearning, because I thought my issue was alcohol, but turns out, just like a lot of people, we're using it to cope with external and internal stressors. So, as a young girl, I look back because I have a little picture of little Deja over here, and I'm like, oh, I should have brought her. But I I thought as a kid, I thought, okay, I have a feeling that everyone is faking, and I
Wow.
am not sure what to do. I'm not sure how to feel about it, because when I bring it up as a little girl, 6 years old, 5 years old, like, uh, you know, just basically punished, that behavior is
Mhm.
punished so it won't happen again. And why is it being punished? Because we're speaking out about something that I guess we shouldn't be talking about, whether that's just like, why is this girl being mean to another girl, like in school, or like, why, just obvious, why am I the only black girl in the in the class?
Mhm. Resonates.
Why
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just like, why this, why that, and like, of course, it's kind of like gaining that love, that label of too sensitive, too
Yeah.
deep, too much. And because I was aware, or I'll just say introspective, that is a God-given thing. I thank God for being introspective, and just, increasing and strengthening that ability today. But at the time, I thought it was a curse, because I was like, nobody wants to, like, you know talk about different things, um, and it caused a lot of harm.
Mhm.
And for example, I remember 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, or whatever. Um, I The teacher had told us, like, okay, let's show our class what we're most excited about, or like what we like. And I'm like, hell yeah, all right, cool. Other kids, right, had brought in what was trending at the time, Barbie and NASCAR cars, or I
Mhm.
don't know, like, whatever. And but me, wow, on the other hand, who I'm like, think bigger, right? I took a shoebox and I poked holes in the shoebox, and I put it over like a lamp, right? Turn off the
Mhm.
lights in the classroom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do you see on the ceiling? You see stars. Oh my God, that's so cool, right? Like, you see stars. You're like, and I don't remember what, the my peer said, but I remember how I felt. And it was
Mhm.
like, that's weird. Like, very shameful of you for like bringing up something a little bit weird and whatnot. And
Oh
I
my
still think
gosh.
about it to that day, where it's like, I couldn't verbalize it, but I knew something was bigger than me. And I had a strong feeling that we are supposed to look up, you know,
Mm.
to be an astronomer really, really, really bad. I didn't really know what an astronomer was. I just thought they got to look at space, and until I took my first astronomy class in college and like barely passed because of the math. But like, I was like, this is something really fascinating. And so, with all that being said, it was kind of like just little moments where I had the opportunity to express myself, but um, I didn't fit the social norm, I guess. And
Mhm.
it then turned into some social, like, competition. I say social,
Mhm.
but I'm also thinking intrinsic competition, because that's, as we're growing up, that's where the different levels of identity comes in to play, and we really start to question things and whatnot. And once again, still being one of the only Black students in pretty much all my classes, I was like, okay, well, my first crush is a white boy. Like, he doesn't like
Mm-hmm.
me because I am black, because I'm different.
Oh,
That's great.
right. Yes.
The clothes I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna wear, I gotta wear Sperry's, and like I gotta, like, have on the clothes that everybody else, all the white girls are wearing, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
like it, but I'm gonna fit in, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're all wired for each other. So that's not that's not the difference. It's just how I went about it, and I don't blame myself for that. I tried, and so all the little milestones that a parent should want for their kids, with their first date and going to prom and da 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 da, and especially academically, straight A's. I had, we'll just say I had straight A's. There's probably a couple B's in there, but I was like, I gotta be straight edge and not get into any trouble, because
Yeah.
that formation was solidified by, let's just say, junior year of high school or something, by 16,
Mm-hmm.
17, as it normally does, on a developmental milestone, while growing up. And so I'm just like, I didn't realize it, at the time, but I could see the the social categorization, on a societal lens, basically just clicks, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, so this person belongs here, this person belongs here. Even from an emotional standpoint, I'm like, can't get too angry, can't show too much emotion. Everything's
Yes.
gonna backfire. I'm scared all the time. And it's so shitty. Is it okay if I
It
curse? I'm
is.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's so shitty. See, even then I'm
Yes.
like, can I curse? Like, oh, because it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
um, just knowing that you're always perceived. Um, so then I had my first drink at 18, and it wasn't, it was still that same thing. I was like, I didn't do drugs, I didn't drink until, I knew I wanted to go to college. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was just clean and da 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 da, straight edge until 18, the summer before college. And because I say it's because I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to be ready, because once again, I see the social norms. This is what we do. It's portrayed in media. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. Yes, it's on media, but this is my real life. And I, like, in my mind, I'm like, clearly that's very real. That's a real reality. Um, so much so that it evoked my first binge drinking behavior, you know?
Wow.
And so with my best friend and I, and what do teenagers do at that time in 2013? We went to the mall. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, we're drinking like Pink Svedka or something, and we drink it, and then we go to the mall, and I'm just like, wow, oh my gosh, like, you probably hear it all the time, but yes, the anxiety slipped away. The even, I didn't have a word for it at the time, but the numbness, the dissociation slipped away. This controlling factor that I just wanted to fit in, the yearn for belonging, slipped away. I did not care. I was like, this is great. The voices slipped away,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that they were just mute. They were finally quiet.
Yeah.
And boy, is that a very dangerous feeling, because it is, because the dopamine level is so high. When you hear that, an addict or an alcoholic will always try to reach their first high, I believe that, because it was something that I've never experienced before, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I had went to college, and I went to predominantly white, liberal arts, small college in Rock Island, Illinois, and so middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
and my perception of college was true. So that gained a lot of clarity and confidence that, okay, so what I see in with some of my older cousins who went to school, who were at, in college at the time, on media, I'm like, okay, this is a real reality. So of course I'm gonna just drink because that's what we do. And it's the same level of little Deja, little you who wants to just fit in, right? It was the same thing. It was just a different context. It was just a different environment,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, turns out, you know, um, still, once again, one of the only Black kids in the school, and especially one of the only Black women in school. And before was an introvert. Now when I drink, I'm an extrovert. People like me. People won't, and this is what I'm saying in my head, people won't see me as a Black woman. They will just see me as one of their own, like, so still that competition that I mentioned earlier of like, um, who's going to win? Is it going to be um, basically masking Deja, or is it going to be real authentic Deja who, hey, fuck her, like I don't like her
Mm-hmm.
because no one really does, she didn't get attention, like,
Right.
so that's the part where it really linked to was my identity, and then it linked to um, social and emotional learning. And
Mm-hmm.
however, that's when I also started questioning more of my Blackness and my eventual, I came to realize my anti-Blackness, because I was like, I don't like me. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I see other Black people in the school who are also here at this white ass school like them, like themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, And that unlearning and learning caused me to drink a little bit more. And so it was just that within the 4 years, and then I graduated and whatnot. And so barely graduated because I started to get clinically depressed. And then I had like my first mental breakdown, we'll just say, and I decided to um, leave the country, because why not?
Mm-hmm.
Do a little
Mm-hmm.
gap year kind of thing. I'm like, what can I do? And I found a company with the Lutheran Church. I'm not Lutheran, so it was like kind of like a mission trip, but I don't see it as that because I am not very religious. But I
Mm-hmm.
was able to move to Argentina and Uruguay for a year, and absolutely loved it. That was the first
Wow.
moment where I'm like, hey, oh, something's going on in America.
Wow.
That was
Yes. Mm-hmm.
2018. That was 2018. And let's see. Yep. So it was still Trump's presidency, first round. And with the individual uh, learning and unlearning and dissecting who I am, I was then, with other individuals who were from various parts of the United States, and we were asking the same questions because a part of them lived in Argentina. I was the only volunteer who lived in Uruguay. So now that I am alone in this journey, like I said, I was not um, religious at the time, so I preferred to not work with the church. But I said I love working with kids, so can I do that? And they said sure. So I'm glad they were very open about it. But I just spent most of my time creating art and writing poetry and learning more about the Afro Uruguayan community, hanging out with them. And there's one more important thing. Oh, I was still drinking. I almost forgot. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
even though I was like finding myself, uh, the the drinking was still there because it's always something deeper. That's the funny part about addictive behaviors and whatnot, is that if you don't kind of if you don't choose to analyze it, do the hard work, trust me, it's hard. But if you don't do it, then you
Mm-hmm.
don't see the real wounds, the trauma, basically. Even if you don't perceive it as trauma, it's still a wound. That's what trauma is, you know?
Yeah.
And so while I was there, I was like talking with the Afro Uruguayan community. I made some really good friends there. Love them, still friends with them today. I This is one of the craziest part. I met Angela Davis, who,
What?
girl, I'm saying, who was there. This is what, you know, the universe works in crazy moments, right? In
It
crazy
does.
ways. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there's no reason I should have met the Angela Davis, like, just randomly as I'm like in Uruguay. But yes, it's true. She was there to receive an honorary doctorate from the University of Montevideo, the city, the capital
Mm-hmm.
of Uruguay, because apparently she, well, not apparently, this is literally history. She did huge work with the Afro Uruguayan community back in the 70s and 80s, and still on. And so somehow her timing, she was there. And because of my willingness to like dive deep more into the diaspora, like I'm like, uh, let me, you know, let me make some moves towards Angela Davis. They're like, hey, do you want to see Angela Davis? I said, hell yeah. Like, so I did. I like did my hair the night before. I braided it so I can have my afro out the next morning. I ended up
Mm-hmm.
painting a picture, and this is why I have it right here.
Yay.
I
Wow.
painted this, and oh, you can barely see it, but I have her signature right here.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was so nervous because I was like, thank you, like, oh my gosh, like my family, you mean a lot to me, and you know my family, and I just can't believe it. And I was able to hear her speak in a very personable environment, and then there was a larger concert where she was speaking, and you know, with the translator as well. And um and at that time it was 6 months into when I finally understood Spanish, even though I studied it in school.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, with the uh with the like being away from family, and then being one of the only black people, uh American black women in Uruguay. There is a very small population of Afro Uruguayans as well, but um because it's a small country. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was just like, there's something going on here, you know. So as I'm just taking the bus to the beach and just like learning and da 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 da, and still drinking, um, not as much as I did in the United States, but I was still drinking because I was like, this is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, culture, you know, like I'll fit in here. That's, you
Right.
know, that's what we did. And so um, then I came back after a year, and then I decided to impulsively go to grad school because of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was scared of, once again, being perceived as one of the black people who just don't care about their future and don't want to do this and don't want to do that. I'm like, oh, it was heavy, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, because I could feel the anxiety approaching as my year was ending. And I'm like, I can't just go home and not do anything. I didn't ask why. I just like, I need to do something. I have to act now. So why not go to grad school? Because that's so smart. And and so I did. And I ended up actually studying something I really liked, applied behavior analysis, because now I can ask the questions without sounding weird and why we do things the way we are. And and so I started grad school 2020, and um, January 2020, then pandemic hit, and still
Mm-hmm.
drinking. That was the heightened, like, I guess, frequency of my drinking. It was just like damn near every night, you know, like going to classes on Zoom, just turning off my camera. And I'm just like, I was very delusional. I'm just like, have my wine. I'm like, yes, I'm a classy girl, like in graduate school, like, you know, like, just playing into the fantasy of, you know, just keep going, because that's what they taught us. Just keep going until the money comes, I guess, until the happiness comes, I guess, until peace comes. And so I thought all that stuff was inevitable. Turns out it's not. It's actually perception, and you know, access to resources. But so I just kept that up, and you know, then I had my rock bottom in December of 2022, when I had to defend my thesis, and I didn't pass by a few points. And they had mentioned that they felt like I didn't really understand the concept of what I was studying very well. And that was the trigger. That was the trigger. Oop, I got a little thumbs up. That was the trigger. It wasn't, you know, moving away from my family. It wasn't, you know, the actual grad school. It was my thesis defense and them saying that I wasn't smart enough. And at least that's how I interpreted it. And I remember going to the liquor store that night, buying double bottle of wine. I think like 2 double bottles of wine, and it was just downhill from there. And I won't say exactly what happened, but I will say I got to the point where I cannot drive anymore. Because and that happened twice, and within 4 months of each other. And I started asking all the existential crisis questions. I said, who am I? First of all, what am I doing? What's going on here? Ironically, I think that was little Deja coming out, trying to make sense of it all. But I'm like, I don't, it wasn't supposed to end up like this. I was supposed to do well in school. I was supposed to graduate, you know, and get my master's and do all these different things, and then own a business and da 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 da. And it was that perfectionism, I guess we'll just say that for now, that just took me into a mental and spiritual space that I've never been before. I did not want to be here on this earth, kind of thing. And I was like, now I'm a part of a statistic. I am like my father, who is an active alcoholic. I am like everything that I did not want to be. And this is my life now. And I was like devastation is not an accurate word to describe it. Like, you know, it's like just being a Black woman in general. We have been beaten countlessly, from various examples of just growing up here in America, right? And now we have ancestral wounds that is already within us. And now the individualistic of trying to be something that I was never going to be, which was white. I guess I was trying to be white. Wow. And when I realized that, Marissa, I was like, oh my God, my eyes were open. I was trying to be something that I could never be, which was basically a white man who had all the perks and that was perceived as something awesome and great. And that's why I kept working so hard, because I saw it as a kid, you know, and now I'm an alcoholic. So I'm like, all right. So this is where radical sobriety comes in. And because the second time when I had my incident, it was not the existential crisis questions. It switched to a different side, and it was more societal questions. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? What's going on here? Um, I wasn't supposed to be like this. I had a plan. My family had a plan for me. I'm an only child as well. I'm the only grandchild as well. So like, you know, I'm like, it's me, 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 me. So I'm like, I gotta keep proving myself. Da 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 da. The second round when this incident happened, I was like, I don't think this is me. I became the Joker. We'll just say that. I just started laughing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, this is interesting. Because after I had went to like a mental health crisis respite place for 5 days, and I
Mm-hmm.
was sober for 30 days. I promised my mom 30 days of sobriety. I did that, and then I relapsed. Um, but you know, meeting the people there, they had very similar issues, and they were like, hey, this is what's going on with me. And I met young, old people, various ethnicities, and I was like, huh, interesting. So then I relapsed, and then I kept drinking, and my second incident happened. And then my mom was like, my sweet mother, dear mother, she's like, Deja, I just don't know what to do with you. You know, I don't know. You're either going to be in jail or, you know, 6 feet under the ground, and I just don't know what to do. And she's like, how about AA or something? Knowing damn well she went through the same thing with my dad. They are not together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you know, that's a whole other conversation because I felt guilty about that. I'm like, damn. Apparently, the apple doesn't fall from the tree, kind of thing. But so I, you know, I did not argue. I did not. I was not hesitant. I didn't dismiss it. I said, okay. And so I biked to the nearest meeting. This is August um, of 2023. And I just kept biking and biking every day. I did, I think, like 30 days in a row. And that's where I put my energy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and once again, I'm still in Naperville. So, like, obviously, the meetings are also white. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't discriminate between which meetings I was going to because at that time it really did not matter. I was like, I am not okay. I just need to go somewhere and just distract myself. Um, and so I went to women's meetings. I went to just different kinds of meetings in the morning, in the evening, didn't matter. Uh, and then because I'm very introspective and aware just by nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, all right, I got a month and a half in, 2 months to my sobriety. I'm feeling a little bit better, actually a lot better. Uh, but it was still those questions, those macro level questions where I was like, guys, let's wake up. What's really going on here? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
we are all saying very similar things. You know, whether that's perfectionism, whether that's anxiety, whether that's depression, whether that's imposter syndrome. Oh, the list can go on and on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you know, I'm just hearing the same damn words, and I'm like, yo, this is not um I don't think this is our fault. You know, like
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I don't think
Yep.
this is our fault actually. So because I became the joke and I just started laughing because I was just like, guys, like you're not crazy. Like I became that person in the meetings. I'm like, guys, no, like you're okay. Like I genuinely think you're okay. Like I don't see you any differently than I see this other person. It's just me. I see myself differently because of conditioning. And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, you know, I was just expressing um, gratitude to the other people for showing up and choosing sobriety another day. And then they would say the exact same thing to me. And so that was one of my first experiences with this damn near love of people I didn't even know. You know, yes, they were still white, but at the time, did not care. I'm like, you are treating me like a saint when I see myself as a you know, um, and so shameful and so guilty. And I was able to display my emotions openly to a group of individuals who weren't afraid, or if they were, that's okay, because we're all on our journey, but weren't afraid to say that they were imperfect. And that was so eye-opening to me. And that beauty and that love, it was just like, wow, there's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with this society, right? Obviously, it's something greater than us. And so that's when I brought in race, because I was like, this is all wonderful and beautiful. And thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. However, still one of the only Black people here. Still, we're in the suburbs. I can't go to the city. I can't go to Chicago. In May, actually, not even May, it is different in the city, in any metropolitan city. There's just more diversity, okay? More Black people. I'm just like, where the Black people at? Where are they? I need them. Because if it's like this with people who don't even look like me and will never understand what it's like to be a minority and in a marginalized community, then imagine what it's like being in a community that does, and still have that same intense, passionate love for healing and growing and in recovery, who aren't going to give you attitude, who's not going to silently police you, like as you're talking about the microaggressions of that day, like it's still the same thing. So I'm like, yeah. So I'm almost done. Thank you for thank you for
No, you're fine.
every time I share my story, I'm like, damn, I talk way too much. But
No.
So I had saw another Black woman. She's actually Ethiopian. And so one of my best friends to this day, I was just with her today, and I saw her. She saw me. Hey, we did the thing. I'm like, hey, girl. Hey. And eventually I got her number and we talked, and I was like, so is it like this everywhere, like around here? Like, you know what I mean? The looks, and because now I am a master of picking up that behavior in other people. Is it the same everywhere for these meetings? Because I'm still new. This is 2 months in. She's like, yeah, girl, unfortunately. If you go to the city, it's probably a different story, probably a different energy. But out here, yeah. And so I was like, okay, interesting. What if, I'm like, just hear me out. What if we started for people of color? Just, just a little AA group, And she's like, yeah, because there's not one around here. And I told her to let me know. I said, please, if you Google BIPOC recovery AA meetings near me, even in Chicago, just like Chicago, there's little to none. Oh, wow. Little to none. And that pissed me off, because even in the moments of where I was, I wasn't threatening to take my own life, but I did want to, because the addiction is so heavy and it's so deep. I'm like, even in that moment, there's still nothing. And that was the moment where I was like, there has to be something. So my friend and I started an AA meeting called Cultural Connections, Discerning Independence, out here in Naperville. And as I know of, it is the only I'm telling you, as I know to this day, it is the only meeting, a meeting specifically for people of color.
Wow.
We are in person and on Zoom on Fridays at 7 p.m. CST. And
And what is the name of it again?
cultural connections.
Okay.
And I remember when we were coming up with the name for it, I was like, what about this? What about that? Like community, and like, nah, like, how about we came up with cultural connections, and I said just a little bit more, discerning independence, because that's where it comes in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've learned individualization, but that
Yes.
independence is that's the hard part, you know? So we're still codependent on something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in this context, it's alcohol and drugs. Or maybe as of now, yes, because it's AA, it's alcohol or drugs, but um, any other, addictive behaviors. So um, it's still going on. It's a beautiful meeting. Love it to death. It's like my passionate project or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then about, let me see, a year, maybe 10 months in, a year. This was pretty recent. So that's when I thought of the idea about radical sobriety. I was like, okay, so still noticing very similar things. Um, it's just a little bit of policing in AA, made by a white man,
Mm-hmm.
for white men who wanted to stay anonymous for a certain reason. Okay. There's a whole
Mm.
history to that.
Interesting.
Um, the first AA, uh, Black AA group was made in, I think, I'm either going to say 47 or 52. And I'm saying 52 because I might have just been when they kind of integrated a little bit for a few meetings, St. Louis included.
Mm.
Um, but so, so I was like, all right, I am finishing up my graduate school stuff because I did not email my professor back after not passing for a year, a little over a year. I just literally dropped everything because I
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't. I just could not,
Right.
you know, just couldn't do it anymore. So I dropped that. I didn't drop out of grad school. I just never emailed them back. So that was one of my first amends where I emailed my professor. I was like, hey girl, like, it's me. Sorry. Let's have a meeting. I explained to her what happened, and they were very understanding. So I was able to finish my program and defend again, and because that was the only thing I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I just couldn't. I was so distraught,
Yeah.
and then finishing up everything I needed to do for practicum, because that's 2,000 hours of practicum to sit for the boards. So as I'm doing all of this and now in recovery, more questions are being asked. I'm like, okay, so if I'm studying applied behavior analysis, right? How does this work with addiction? Because addiction is a behavior. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, when you look up ABA or applied behavior analysis, you will get a lot of you'll see that it is the moneymaker is with the autistic community, because that's really the foundation of it.
Mm-hmm.
People with disabilities. However, the field is growing, and I guess this is now a niche area. Apparently, talking about mental health is
Mm.
niche when it's still therapy, but specifically in addiction. And so that's where the idea came for radical sobriety. And I thought, how can I still help me, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about me. Because I'm like, I need to understand some of these principles and concepts are very hard to understand. And because it's not just regular psychology, I love psychology, but unfortunately, applied behavior analysis wants to make up their own terms and concepts and whatnot. And so
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to, we've all heard of the most famous one, which is positive reinforcement. That is a behavior analytic principle. Now there's punishment, right? It's not just punishment, like punishment. That is decreasing behavior, right? There is a token economy. There's a task analysis. There's behavior momentum. There's like all these different things where it's still related to how, when we're in a certain context, certain variables and conditions, if the conditions are just right, we do something. I am here talking with you because in the past you had messaged me, you had reached out, and I could either have been, I could have said no, but I said yes because the learning history with you is positive. So this is a reinforcing event for me because I most likely will want to talk to you again. Being in your community is reinforcing to me and other people. So certain behaviors, even if it's just access to other people, is a behavior. It's just how we do it. It's the approach. And now there's the science to it. There's different methods and whatnot. And so the whole thing about radical sobriety was, one, let's continue to get the message that alcoholism is a real epidemic, right? Let's get the theme of that alcohol is bad for our health, because apparently still that is unconventional, even though people make a lot of content about it on social media and profit off of it, damn near. And there's AA, right? It's like, yeah, we know it's bad for us, but we still do it. So I'm like, no, let's really talk about it. Let's really, really talk about it. Like, this is not good. This is poison, on the substance level and then spiritually. And once again, we're going to talk about how it affects marginalized communities. I'm putting quote unquote around marginalized because I don't really like the term, because it just kind of bundles us together, so that's just what I'm doing with my hands. But like, it's just another label for me. I'm a Black woman who experienced the physiological effects of doing something and over again, and that is drinking, consuming an addictive substance, and then getting addicted to the addictive substance, and that is not the case for a lot of people. Alcohol is everywhere, yes, but how about we talk about, once again, the wounds and the trauma, and then we can take a behavior analytic approach to it. We can take a look at the labels, the words that I've heard throughout AA, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, anxiety. That is all white supremacy. That is a system of white supremacy. All right.
That's it.
Let's talk about emotional regulation. That is still white supremacist-esque, right? Let's talk about how we are just anyone being penalized for showing emotion. Cool. We can agree on that. That is harmful. But let's talk about how it pertains to Black women as well and Black people. Okay. Let's talk about how it is actually a way for us to keep living, because even though we do engage in addictive behaviors like alcoholism, most of us still want to live, right? I still want a healthy life. I still want to do all the things that I've aspired for when I was a kid. I still want to be here. I chose alcohol to help me get there because I was conditioned that I got to keep going. So no shade to anybody who engaged in these behaviors, but I wasn't selling my body. I wasn't shooting up. In fact, I was afraid of hallucinogens and other drugs. I never did it. I just smoked weed and drank because that's what was going on. That's what other people did. And this is what happened to me. So even though I had the access to a very much financial stable environment, Naperville, Illinois, I have a beautiful family. My mom, my grandma, I lived with my grandma at the time. They loved me to death. They wanted to see me live. I experienced unconditional love, right?
Wow.
I had education, still in debt, whatever. but I have the education to kind of combat some of this, or at least kind of freely
Mhm.
demonstrate how, on a behavior analytic and psychological standpoint, decolonized psychological standpoint, okay, because that is harmful in itself,
Mhm.
that sobriety is in itself radical. It is going back, it is a revolution, it is rebellious as hell. It is taking the fact that we were told what to do, how to do it,
Mhm.
and even if, yes, we're in the age of talking about mental health and whatnot, even with everything that is being talked about freely, quote unquote, on social media, it's still not, because there are cultural barriers that is damn near extremely tough to break down those walls. Um, there is still a lot of Black and brown children who believe at their core that their demeanor is imperfect, um, and in itself, it's all political, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
when I talk about radical sobriety and whatnot, of course I can get political, uh, and how a lot of the behaviors we engage in is right wing and conservative, because conserve they're still they're still trying to make sure we're mindless, kind of thing, and ignorant and
Yes.
damn near brainless, you know.
Yeah.
So alcohol is very good at that, you know. So I can go political if you like, right?
Mm.
Try to keep us in
Mhm.
control, and they
Mhm.
don't even have to do it for us. We're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, the different regulations with that on a political stance. But if we want to go individualistic and taking it to our personal lives, we can say that it is, hey, I'm going against the grain of choosing to not partake it, consuming alcohol, or smoking weed, or engaging in the unhelpful substance at an after hour work party, or when I'm home alone with the kids and the girls just want a wine night, or if I am going out with the girls, or if it's just guys, you know, just like, you know, just engaging in um, the same things that everyone else does because it's easier. Um, that applying that mindset is radical. Applying that mindset to your personal life is unconventional, and choosing you to stay here and to damn near save your life is the most radical thing you can do, because at the end of the day, it takes vulnerability. No one
It
wants to do
does.
that.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much that, girl. I just went off.
No, you're
And I went off
good.
this because I'm like, what should I say? Da, 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 until I get to the point where I'm like, no, like, let's really talk about it, okay? And then it just goes
Yes.
off. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. So many
Oh,
gems that you shared um, that
thank
were
you for
healing,
listening.
right? Oh, absolutely. Um, oh my gosh. Faking as a child, this is something I've been sitting with. Recognizing that things are not right. But then when you voice it, you're immediately met with that criticism, right? You're blamed. And it teaches a lot of us to internalize what we're feeling. And I think what you shared about the switch that happened, all of a sudden you were able to like take the blame off of yourself and
Mm-hmm.
put it onto the society. This is a really like messed up society and systems that kind of force us into a lot of these situations that we encounter throughout our lives on purpose. It's very deliberate. And
Mm-hmm.
so having that like acknowledgement, right? And being able to be like, okay, nothing's wrong with me. That's so
Mm-mm.
powerful. Mhm.
Mm-mm. It is. There's layers on layers on layers from being a woman and say, I'm gonna drink like a man. Okay, yeah. And then
Mm.
as a Black woman, I'm like, I guess I should be a part of the stereotype, like, and
Mhm.
now I don't know who I am,
Mhm.
so it's just so mucky, and there's just the mental gymnastics is that's what makes you go insane, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And because overall, what we do live in is an insane world, an
Yeah.
insane society. So
Mhm.
then you just have the pleasure of saying, I don't give a shit, and you just drink,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
Because it's
Mhm.
so much easier. It's
Yeah.
hard to fight.
Yeah. And you shared something really powerful that I want to highlight. Like, we still want to be here. That alcohol is a way to often to keep going, like you said, because there's so much pressure to keep going, right? But I think there's this like false belief that people don't want to be here, and they turn to some of these substances. It's like, no, I still want to be here, but I'm just like the pain. So in order to get through that, right, from day to day, using alcohol or another substance as a way to do that.
Yes, most of us just want peace,
Mm,
so we choose oblivion because that's the closest thing to it.
wow. Wow.
That's a nice place to be.
Mm-hmm.
I miss it every day. That's the hard
Mm-hmm.
part. It's like, well, I know it's not gonna last. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I must choose a different route and stay sober.
Yeah. Well, yes, I so appreciate you sharing your story today. And I'm sure like a lot of people will benefit and be healed from what you shared. So thank you. I do want to mention the resources you mentioned, cultural connections in Naperville, if you are interested in meetings for Black and Brown folks, AA meetings. Is there a way that people can get into contact with you to sign up if they're interested?
Yeah, so Instagram, radical_sobriety. Um, I will put out my personal email because that's totally okay. You can email me, Deja Hartsfield, DejaHartsfield @gmail.com if you are interested in the Zoom link. Um, because it is a closed meeting, you have to want to choose sobriety as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm open just to talk, because clearly I love talking. So, whether that's on your sobriety journey or just emotional dysregulation and how angry you are, um, hold on to that, make a place for it. And there are people who would want to talk to you about it. Um, because once again, that's radical too.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I would love, maybe one of these days, I've been thinking about it, is create a website for radical sobriety to post my blogs there because I've been writing a lot. But as of now, I'm just chilling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, as we wind down the conversation today, is there anything that you want to leave the audience with?
um, if there is any impulse or craving to drink or use, give yourself 5 seconds just to pause and think of, it's going to be hard, but think of the why. Think of your little self. Think about your intention. Because a lot of the people that we follow on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, to give us insight about how to live our lives authentically, um, that can only go so far. you know
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's that, shadow work kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to start meditating for 30 minutes every day. It's literally giving yourself 5 seconds to ask why. And if you can answer that, if you can give yourself maybe like a rationalized excuse for drinking, then go ahead, because I get it. Like, I get
Mm-hmm.
it. But if you do, and just know that there may be some guilt and shame. But if you can live with that and talk about it, then that's the hard. That's not even the hard part, but that's the most important part, because it's little steps.
Hmm.
This disease is a gradual thing. You don't just wake up one day and choose to be an alcoholic. It's the same thing with unlearning. It's a gradual thing. So, like, if you drink today, that's okay. Like, literally, no shade. But remember, just take it small steps at a time. Literally, one day at a time, as they say. And it's true. You can't think of the bigger picture because it's too much. But
Yeah.
just give yourself some time.
Give yourself some time. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Deja, for sharing everything that you shared. And I will link the community in the description section. If y'all would like to join, please do follow on Instagram. And yes, I want to thank you just for your vulnerability, for your transparency in sharing. And it's still so surprising to me that there are not like healing communities for Black and Brown people, specifically around like AA, healing from substance abuse, like
Yeah.
in
It's
2025.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and that is telling.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but maybe we'll see. Radical sobriety's popping off, go support, because
It
I have
is.
a lot of great
Hmm.
ideas, and I really feel like this can be an actual safe space for those who are seeking recovery, and trying to just be themselves authentically, because you don't need the drink. You are fun, girl. Like, you are
Hmm.
fun and people like you, okay?
I
That's
love
all.
it. I love it. Well, yes, y'all. If you like this video, please like it again. Please leave a comment below if anything resonated with you. And yes, until next time, please follow Radical Sobriety on Instagram. Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Bye.